In this past Sunday's reading from the Gospel according to John, we see Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. And there's just a couple of points in this story that I want to mention here. So when Pope Francis has reflected upon this gospel reading, he talked about how we all have those dead places in our souls, inside of ourselves, that we need Jesus to come and make alive, to bring back to life. So we all have those dark places. So the points here that I want to bring up from the gospel story itself are that first, what happened when Jesus came to the tomb of Lazarus. Okay, so he came. Oh, hello, kiddos. He came up to the tomb and he asked where Lazarus was. And they said he was in the tomb. All right, so Jesus was asking first, where is this dead person? Where is the death? And I think that's kind of our first step that we need to be making when it comes to our own sin, our own hurts, our own dark places. We have to ask ourselves, where are they? Sometimes we know where those hurt places are, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're lashing out at anger, or we're feeling sadness, or just something's wrong and we're not sure why or what that is, and that might be hidden from us. So first we have to ask, where is that darkness? Where is that dark place inside of ourselves? So they told Jesus he's there in the tomb, and Jesus told them, all right, move the rock away. Roll the big rock away blocking the tomb. And it's interesting because when he said to do that, they said no. They said he's been dead for days. He's going to be reeking, smelling bad. It's going to be terrible. And I think that's one of the things that we do for our own darkness, right? We bury it. And when Jesus calls us to bring it into the light, to move the stone out of the way, we say no. It's going to hurt. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be bad. We buried it for a reason. But Jesus insists, just like he insists in this gospel story, that he is here to bring new life. Right? So they roll the stone away, and then Jesus shouts out. It says that he raised his voice, or he shouts for Lazarus to rise. And I think that's so important that we don't hear much about Jesus shouting, right? We don't often hear about Jesus raising his voice. So I think it's important, too, that we really confront what this darkness is, because the devil wants us to leave all of our sin, all of our hurts and our pain in darkness. He wants us to not think about what they are. He doesn't want us to name them. Okay, so I think it's important that we shout out at them, call them, write it down in a notebook, talk to someone about it, bring up what this dark, dark thing inside of us is. Okay, so Jesus shouts out, he calls out for Lazarus to rise. And Lazarus does, right? He comes walking out of the tomb. But it doesn't end there. When Lazarus comes out, he's wrapped up in all of the burial garments, right? He's pretty much a mummy, more or less, right? He can't see, he's still wrapped up, he's tied up, he can't move. And Jesus tells them, untie him and let him go. So even when we confront it, and we bring that dark thing into the light, right? We just say, okay, we're ready to turn this over to God, to convert it into something good, bring it into the light, it's still wrapped up. We're still blinded by it in many ways. We're still affected. It might be a hurt. It might be an anger or resentment that we're holding towards someone or some event, or maybe even towards God himself. But whatever it is, once we bring it into the light, that's when we can start to unwrap the bandages, unwrap the way that we're tied up. And that can be a really long process depending on what it is. Right? That can take days, weeks, months, years, decades even of prayer, of sacrifice, saying, God, I brought this into the light, I give it to you. And we slowly unwrap it, bandage by bandage, and slowly we'll be able to freely move again. Okay, so I recommend that we all go through and sort of take this procedure to heart. So first we ask, where is the death? Where is the darkness? Where are those skeletons inside of us that we need to confront? And we pray on that, meditate on that. Once we find what those dark places are, we have to move that stone out of the way. We have to bring him into the light and trust that God can bring new life within us. Once we move that stone out of the way, we need to shout out what it is. We need to say, I have resentment towards this person. I've been hurt by this person. Or I feel such shame for committing this sin. Right? We need to go to confession. We need to maybe talk to that person. We need to bring it out into the light. And then once we do so, we can start praying to take off those bandages one by one. And we all deal with things differently. Some of us maybe will get through those bandages quicker than others. All right, but we're going to give it up to God, have God bring it into the light for us. And Lent is a great time to do that, to really go into our soul, do that kind of spring cleaning, so that when Easter comes, we've named it, we've brought it into the light, and we're ready to move in to the next liturgical season here by taking off prayerfully with God by our side, bandage by bandage. Have a blessed day.